In my presentation, I'll be going through my context, my evaluation, my paperwork, my reflective journal, my research, and my works. Also, will look through my final video. So first, to start off with, I had to plan my idea. To plan my idea, I did a pitch and a one-page proposal. I also did a UAL proposal and a draft script. I had a schedule which I made along the way. This was to help me follow up on ideas and so that I didn't lose track of time. My schedule was there. Okay, so this is my pitch. The first page was about the synopsis of my production. The synopsis of my production was a short video to entertain and engage an audience. It was going to be an experimental poetic documentary on what London means to people. My synopsis was different to my final production, as my ideas slightly changed over time. So where it says sort of take an early morning and in the night, that changed because I decided to change it from more like what London means to me to more diversity in London. I did put this in my proposal, so it changed. I just haven't updated the synopsis because I wanted to keep it the same so that I could see back of how things did change. This is my hooks and themes. I made this on word art and I put in a few words that I think related to my project, as you can see. And then my schedule, which we can see on the side here. This is similar productions to mine. Samsara, which is a well-known poetic documentary, which I looked into first because this was where I got my first main ideas from. I then looked into a production made by a college student because I wanted to see how much mine could relate. Theirs was also about London, which is why I looked into it, and it also gave me a few more ideas. This was really helpful, this section, as I was able to gain a lot more knowledge on what to do and how to film my video. My audience profiles, as you can see, I looked into BBC News, BBC 2 and YouTube. My main target audience was BBC 2, and I thought that because my production was similar to productions that I'd seen on the channel, so I thought that our audiences would be similar. Okay, my primary target audience, which is what I certainly just discussed, was explorers because it's different. Like it's not like a normal documentary; it's a poetic documentary, so it's not mainstream. It wouldn't fit into the mainstream section. But could fall into categories C1, C2, and D, as it seemed to be maybe a touristy video, and like upper class and middle class people may not be interested. My primary research, I did a questionnaire. This is a few of the questions that were on there. I didn't get as many responses as I wished to get, so my questionnaire wasn't as helpful as it could have been if I had received more answers. But I did get a few ideas on what to film. For example, what does London mean to you? I looked into these things. And when it said what parts of London would you like to see, I also looked into these things and filmed as much as I could of what people wanted to see. My secondary audience, I looked onto Barb and looked at the ratio of the people. I didn't go over this much because I didn't see how much like it related to my projects because I didn't want to target such a small audience. Visual research, I did an interview with a few people in my class just to go over the techniques used in interviews. I then looked into equipment, which we all needed to do. So, of course, an SD card, which I'd need to have my work stored on, a video recorder, which was easy to get a hold of, and a mic for volume. In the end, I didn't actually end up using a microphone because the sound was all put in afterwards rather than filmed. The locations, Carnaby and Camden, and how I will get my audience feedback. So as you can see, I did put it on YouTube, and I did do a forum, but I didn't get any replies on my forum, so it wasn't very helpful. I did do questionnaires, which I hadn't put in here though, so maybe I could update that afterwards. Okay, next we will look at my one-page proposal. This was made just so it's in a way to show someone else what my project would be, but it was also to help me understand what my project would be. As before I'd done this, I wasn't really sure how my project was going to turn out or what it would look like. So writing this up really did benefit me and helped me develop my idea. It's the same with the UAL one, although this one was in more detail. But it's harder to write this one as you have to fit it into a certain amount of words. This meant it was quite hard to fit my whole idea in. I then also have a bibliography at the end of all the websites. These are websites also from my research and from like similar products and things like that. This is my draft script. I didn't do much at this point because I really didn't know how to finish this off. Like I didn't know what I wanted my product to look like, but I do have a finished script of when I decided what I wanted my work to be, which we'll see in my production paperwork. Okay, so we'll look at that now. Okay, so we can see a budget, a call sheet, problem solving, 2 recce's because I did 2 places, 2 risk assessments, again 2 places, a script, my final one, and a shot list. So my budget research was where I had to look into equipment that I could potentially be using and look at the prices and how I could hire them. So here we have camera, grip, lighting, audio, studios, editing suite, locations, and then we have the bet2 rates where you compare them all and then you're able to decide like which one's best to go for. So that was quite helpful. Although I wasn't paying for my equipment, it was good to look into it to think about further productions. I could decide which one would be good for me to use. Okay, so now we're going to look at my call sheet. So the call sheet, as you can see, has all the information. So as I'm the only person working on it, these will all be me and my number. This was the most local medical to my filming area. And then here we have the map of Carnaby and the underline. I would say the call sheet would be helpful if I was working with a group of people because it would be helpful for us to all keep track of when things were happening, who was doing what, and we could contact each other through that. But as I was working alone, it didn't feel very necessary to me. For my problem solving log, first I started off with potential problems that I could have, and then I did problems that I did actually have. So this was helpful to have the potential problems, because then if I did come across these problems, I was able to know what to do, and I knew what actions to take as I had previously written about it. So as we can see, I had quite a few problems during the work. One big problem that did upset me was this one, as I could have had a client to work with, but as they didn't get back to me, it um, it meant that I didn't have anyone to work with, and maybe if I'd tried to send it out earlier than I had, I would have been able to get in contact with him. I did send him more than one email, but he was never able to get back to me. Okay, this was a problem that was easily fixed, as I went through it with the teacher, and he said that if I just adjusted the sound levels, my whole video would look a lot better. So my problem was that the voiceovers were all different, they all sound very different, and it was set in duo mono rather than no, so it was set in stereo when it should have been set in duo mono. So to fix this, I had to adjust the sound on the audio meter, and this made the whole video sound a lot better. The problem solving log was very helpful because I could look through it as I was working, and I was able to write up how I fixed my issues, and it made me feel better about them. Here are my two recce's. Of course, because they're both outside, they're going to be quite similar. Yeah, so I looked into everything around the area. This one was for Camden. I also looked into what opened, so here you can see I looked into when the McDonald's was closing and local things opened and things like that, so that I was able to provide for everyone. I also did the same with the Carnaby Street one. Then I have my two risk assessments. Also, these will be similar because they were both filmed outside, which means the same potential problems are there. So as you can see, there was quite a few potential risks. The first one was animals. This is quite a big problem because they could harm people, or they could break the equipment. So we did need to make sure there was no animals around when filming, because it was a high danger to us, especially knowing they're not our animals. We didn't know how to keep them calm. I also made sure there was loads of breaks because I didn't want to feel as if I couldn't work for very long. And I knew that if I didn't have any breaks, I would have had less work done and worth quality work, because I would have been tired and not wanting to do anything anymore. So yeah, my risk assessment was helpful because I was able to decide what I wanted to do before filming. For example, the breaks. Maybe if I hadn't have thought about it, I wouldn't have given myself breaks and I would have been very tired when filming. Okay, and the same for the other place, Carnaby, the same risks. Okay, then I have my final script, which is a lot more than my first one, of course, because I knew what I was doing. I had already developed my idea and I was able to decide what I was going to do. As you can see, I put in the times as well where I wanted it to be. I had the music. I didn't know what music I'd have at this point. That was the only thing I wasn't aware of. I also put in what was going to be on the screen at the time. This is similar to my shot list, as you'll describe in what's happening. In this one, I was also able to have my poem, so I wrote that in the audio section. And how long was the shot would be there for, which is similar to the timings, I guess, because you could work out how long the shot was going to be. I have a short description of the shot and whether it was going to be inside or outside. As all my shots were filmed outside, they will all be X'd, which is exterior. I also described what shot it would be, so long shot, tracking shot, long shot again, medium shot, and so on. Okay, so now we're going to look at my research. For my primary research, I had a focus groups, and I also had vox pops. As you can see, I did quite a few. I redone some of them because at first people wasn't really talking or giving as much information as they could, so I would then refilm it, asking them to explain more in detail what they wanted me to do. These were quite helpful as they did help me decide what I was going to do. For example, if I show you in my research report, I spoke about what they said, and if you see my final production, you'll know that what they said follows up with my work. This is the same with the vox pops. People all have similar ideas on what I should use in the background for my video. This was really helpful for me because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My research report was very helpful because I was able to get a lot of ideas from similar productions, from other people's target audience, even like doing shots, visual research myself, looking in detail into pictures so that I could see what meanings they had, which would help me film because I could pick things that had meanings to me. So a lot of it was really helpful. I also did some questionnaires, but I didn't put all the questions in because some of them were just unhelpful. I wish I had sent out more, as I said before, so that I could have got more answers and more beneficial information. Here are the show channels that I looked into. I looked into the audience for these to see which one had the most similar audience to me, and then I would look deeper into their audience. If I click on one, so total demographics, target audience, Bob, and how it developed my product. Now we'll look into a reflective journal. A reflective journal is what we write throughout the whole project. As you can see from the start of the FMP until the end. We write this so we can reflect on the work we've done throughout the day. So for example, when I done my horror challenge, I wrote up about it so that I could look back and I wouldn't just forget about the work that I've done. I could use it to remind myself on how I did it. I also gave myself targets at the end of each one just to help me on within further work. As you can see, I've done this throughout my whole project. And also give myself targets, which I would work on myself. I feel like the reflective journal would have been more helpful if I filled it out more, because I feel like I didn't put in everything I could have, so therefore I didn't get the full use out of it. Then we have my final evaluation, which is what you do at the end, where you discuss everything that you've done. So at the end of them, I also put a SWOT analysis to discuss in depth what I did in each section. So I have my pre-production, my production, and then my feedback section. In each section I spoke about research and everything that I did in my pre-production, and production I spoke about the actual edit, and then feedback I spoke about my questionnaires. I think what helped me most in this section was the SWOT analysis, because I was able to, rather than just describe, I was able to actually evaluate what I had done, which is obviously helpful because then you can really think about it and you can work more on your work. As you can see, I did get more feedback here than I did for my primary, which was also helpful because I looked back at these and looked back at my work and I adapted it to what people had said, and I will also adapt in my own time from what results I had received. I was happy with my feedback this time as it was quite positive. There was also a lot of useful information that I got. This is my works page. I'll click on preview so I can go through it. So here's my year 1, year 2, my clients, my contact, then my FMP. So to see my presentation, I'll have it here. My rough edit will be here. It's already here. My horror short film is here, and then to see the FMP final review, you just click FMP. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the video. Of my mind, the past and present are strictly entwined. Through people and places, its heart we will find. As you can see, fellow travellers and friends left behind. Around Oxford Circle. My poem was spoken very fast, and I had no way of slowing it down without making the audio sound out of place. So I was going to re-record it, but then I would have had to record everyone else's because it would sound a bit different. So I just kept it how it was, but tried to have it at the start rather than in the middle so it didn't sound too out of place. On buses and cars, where rich and poor pursue. These were test shots, but as I liked them, I used them in my final video. So these ones here, I filmed them before my actual filming when I was doing my test shots, but I decided that I wanted some more out of focus shots in there, so I used these two. On the odd market squares, beneath the near, pure and sublime, rhythmically beating perfectly in time. As you can see, a lot of the people I picked have accents. This was because I wanted to show diversity, so I picked people who had more of an accent.
Beefeater's guard, the secrets denied. In the gallows.
This shot came out a bit blurry. When I actually filmed it, it wasn't as blurry, but putting it into Final Cut Pro, it did.
Tale of London's pride.
L'Italie and Trafalgar Square, the omnibus mayor, or Westminster Bridge, in for spare. This is my ode to London, my poem now penned, celebrates the land, and my heart I owe to London, my friend.
As you'll see on my rough edit, I faded the voice out here, but I decided that it looked better if I kept the voice at the same level but faded the video out, because fading out the sound made the video sound a bit off and you couldn't really understand what he was saying, so it looked better to just fade out the actual footage and fade out the background music. As you can see, my video was quite short. This was because I didn't get as much footage as I could have. If I was to film it again, I would maybe have made it a bit longer, but I thought that if it was too long, it may have dragged out because there wasn't much to see, and it fit the full length of the poem, which made it perfect length. So, yeah. So that was my final video, and that's the end of my presentation.